Today we're going to settle the debate. Where can you get better deals? Direct to agent or direct to seller when you're wholesaling real estate or you're buying as an investor? I get this question all the time, especially from some of the newer people, but even the veterans ask the same question amongst ourselves when we're comparing notes. So we're going to go over the pros and cons of direct to agent, which I will refer to as DTA, or direct to seller, which I will refer to as DTS. No, not DTF. Get your mind out of the gutter. Now, here's the deal. I used to do a lot of over-the-shoulder training videos, OTS, over the shoulder. Yeah, there's a lot of acronyms. I'm sorry. It's just part of the business. And no, it's not a PBJ. So I used to do a lot of these over-the-shoulder training videos where I would walk people through step by step on exactly what it is that I do. And then I would screen record as I did it. So I would do a direct-to-agent training video showing you exactly what I'm doing, how I'm getting these deals under contract, and then how I'm selling them. But as I was screen recording, a lot of personal information was showing up, and so a lot of these videos slowly started getting taken down from YouTube. So these days, I can't do over-the-shoulder training videos, OTS. Now it's just going to be you and me talking and me verbally explaining to you how this process works. But I've got some good news. If you want to access our vault of OTS over-the-shoulder training videos, you can access them for free in our Skool community. Skool with a K, SKOOL.DispoDragons.com, school.DispoDragons.com. You go there, you register, you have access to all of my over-the-shoulder training videos, and I'm still making new ones as we speak, and you can see them there, okay? You just can't see them on YouTube. Now that I've cleared that out of the way, please make sure that you subscribe, okay, to our channel. So that way you can have access to all of the videos that we're currently working on and all of the future stuff that we're going to be working on. Make sure that you click on the bell icon so that way you can be alerted anytime we go live or anytime a new video is about to get uploaded. All right. Now, that being said, let's talk about DTA versus DTS. Which one is better? Now, the pros about working direct to agent deals. Number one, the very first pro is the fact that the seller wants to sell. The seller it's very easily identifiable. They're raising their hands. They have a for sale sign up. It's on Zillow. They're easier to find than if you were working direct to seller when it's much harder to find. So the first benefit is it's way easier to find those sellers. Now, the second benefit is, and forgive me because I'm going over my notes. The second benefit is that the longer that the longer that a property sits on the market, the more flexible that the seller becomes. All right, and let's talk about why this happens. Well, when a seller puts a property on the market, they're typically going to hire an agent. Now, if they hire an agent, then what's going to happen is they're going to have to make sure that the house is stage ready, that the house shows well so that the house can get sold. The agent is going to do a few things to market the property, right? They're going to take the professional photographs. They're going to do maybe a virtual 3D tour. They're going to have open houses. They're going to make certain recommendations. They may ask the seller to declutter. They may ask the seller to move furniture around. They may ask the seller to move furniture out of the house. There's a whole list of things that a good agent knows what to ask a seller to do in order to make it more marketable. And here's the deal. The seller, because they want to get the highest price possible too, they're going to do what the agent tells them to do. After 90 days of having done this and then having open houses, on the weekend and having people parade through the house and people that they don't know, neighbors, and then they have to leave for 4 or 5 hours. They clean the house, they freshen it up, they get it all stage ready. And then coming back to find out that there's still no offers on the table, they start to get frustrated. They get frustrated, but they also become a little bit more flexible in terms of their price. So this is one of the reasons that you want to work the direct to agent market, because you're able to track, especially using Zillow, because on Zillow there's a property history there where it shows exactly when the property was listed, how long it's been sitting on the market, if they hired or fired an agent, when they changed agents. So you can see this cumulative history of how many times they've tried to sell it and how long it's been sitting on the market, and that can help you negotiate. Okay, so that was the second reason. The longer it sits on the market, the more flexible the seller becomes. Now, The third reason that you want to work with direct-to-agent deals is because there is an agent involved. Now, that can be a double-edged sword. That's a blessing and it's a curse. But let's just talk about it being a blessing. The fact that there's an agent involved, it actually helps facilitate the deal. It helps you make a deal happen. Why? Because the agent wants to get paid. Right? They want to get paid. They only earn a commission when a property is sold. There's no salary, there's no hourly, none of that. Only when a deal closes and when the house is sold. So you have an agent that's been working on a property for 90 days or more. They haven't gotten paid. They're spending their weekends there. They're holding these open houses. They're getting told that by the seller that they're not doing a good job. Trust me, they want to get the property sold as well. And so now you've got a seller that wants to sell, and you've got an agent that wants to facilitate the deal, and they can act as a mediator to bring both parties to the negotiating table. Okay. Now, does that mean that you're going to be able to get the property 30 cents on the dollar? Probably not. In fact, I'm willing to bet that you're definitely not going to do that. But having them there does actually make it a little bit easier sometimes. Now, we'll talk about how it doesn't make it easier in a little bit. But yes, having an agent involved can actually make the deal a little bit smoother. All right. Now, number 4, there are thousands of properties up for sale nationwide that are for sale currently right now. Now, why is that great? Because what it does is it opens up your seller pool, your net much larger so that you can catch your deals. All right. Much, much larger. It's a much larger pool. Even if you get less than 0.5% of all the deals that are currently on the market right now, you couldn't handle it all, okay? And so the benefit is that there's this entire market that you can go after if you're just diligent and you work this strategy, the direct-to-agent strategy, on a regular basis, okay? Number 5, you can access all of these listings on Zillow for free. For free. It doesn't cost you anything. Zillow is the best real estate website out there, period, bar none. It is what it is. So you can go onto Zillow for free, and you can actually register yourself, and you can save properties, and there's all these cool tools on there that you can use so that you can, mark a property down that you might be interested in. But more importantly, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. So there are other paid services which are just as great. You've got PropStream, you've got Batch Leads, I've heard Deal Machine. You've got all these tools that can provide you with the list of properties that have been sitting on the market. And you can set the filters on them as well and certain parameters as well. But I mean, if it's for free on Zillow, why not just do it? Right? I'm trying to eliminate all of your excuses as to why this can't work or why you can't get any deals. Zillow's free. Hop onto Zillow, set up a filter so that you see all the houses that are currently for sale 90 days or less, and start approaching those agents. All right, that's it. Number 6, it's much easier to find an agent than it is to find a seller. All right. Now, when you're working direct to agent and you hop onto Zillow, you'll see the listing. And then as you scroll down, you'll also see the agent's contact information. You'll see their name, their real estate license number, their phone number, and their brokerage, and possibly even their brokerage telephone number. So the information is there. All you have to do is contact the agent, call them, text them, whatever, get a hold of them, let them know that you're an interested party and that you'd like to make an offer on the property and see what they say. Okay. Now, there are some times where there are some agents that for whatever reason you can't find them, right? I don't understand how someone can be an agent in this era and be a secret ninja agent and have no social footprint. They put a toll-free number on there where you can't get a hold of them, or you put a toll-free number on there and then you get some overseas caller. I'm not knocking overseas calling. I'm just saying, why make it so difficult for the customer or the client to get a hold of you? I do not understand that. And yet, there's some agents that do that. Not all of them. It's just a small percentage, but there are a small percentage of them that you're going to try to get a hold of them using the phone number that's on Zillow, and you're not going to be able to catch them. So you'll have to do a Google search for them. So just do a quick Google search for them, see if you can find them, see if you can find their social media, send them a message to whatever social media profiles they might have. Let them know that you're an interested party and you're interested in submitting an offer on that listing, okay? And still, even then, it's still much more easier to find an agent than it is to find a seller. Because with the seller, you have to skip trace them. You have to hope that the data's right. If you've got a seller that's in notice of default or they're in foreclosure, they may have changed telephone numbers or emails are bad. So there's all these different variables that you don't have to deal with when it comes to direct to agent. The information is right there. It's in your face. Boom, pick up the phone, give them a call. All right. Number 7, low cost per lead. It's again, Zillow's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Okay. All it's going to cost you is your time and energy. That's what it's going to cost you to pick up the phone, get a hold of the agent, send them a message, email them, shoot them a message through social media, letting them know that you're interested in that property. That's it. That's all you got to do. Whereas when you're going direct to seller, you're going to spend a lot more money, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, using all of your marketing dollars. So those are the pros of going direct to agent. Now, let's talk about the cons. The first con, the first negative aspect of it is that there's an agent involved, right? Earlier I talked about this. It's a double-edged sword. Having an agent involved is a blessing because they can act as a mediator to bring the parties together. But having an agent involved, right, it creates two opposing forces, right? You've got two forces that are in direct opposition of one another. Because number one, the agent's job is to get the seller the highest price possible. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to be doing, is to get the seller the highest price possible. And as an investor, right, or as a wholesaler who's going to assign the property to an investor, your job is to get the lowest price possible. So you got someone fighting for the highest price possible and someone fighting for the lowest price possible, and hopefully you meet somewhere there in the middle. Now, the other reason that agents make it more difficult is because agents are great salespeople. Some of them are some of the best professional salespeople I've ever met. Agents aren't necessarily always some of the best investors. And so as a result of that, and I was the exact same way, so I'm not knocking anybody. I was a great agent. I was a horrible investor. I didn't really know how to invest. And so when you're talking to them from the perspective of an investor, you may have to actually educate these agents. You may have to help them understand the cost of fixing and flipping a property. You may have to educate them on subject to purchasing is subject to an existing mortgage. You may have to, I've had to do this myself. You may have to educate them on seller financing. They didn't even know that a seller could finance a property and act as a bank and make money on the interest the way a bank does. There are plenty of agents that don't know this stuff. Don't hold it against them. Just make sure that when you're talking to them, right, you're educating them and you're trying to be as civil as possible. There will be some agents that are going to say, oh, nope, you can't do that. Oh, nope, the seller won't accept that. Oh, nope, they wouldn't even consider that. Oh, nope, this has a bad rep. And they don't really know what they're saying no to because they haven't been educated enough as investors. What they are educated in is in being a real estate agent and selling these properties and marketing these properties and closing these deals and putting them on the MLS. This is what they're educated on. They're not educated. The vast majority of them, not all, but the vast majority of them are not educated as investors. In fact, very, very few, a very small percentage of them actually even own investment properties outside of their home. So just keep that in mind. Be patient with them. Try to educate them as much as possible from the investor's perspective, okay? They have a vast knowledge of what it's like to be a real estate agent. I give them credit for that, but most of us as realtors, real estate agents, real estate brokers, we're horrible as investors, okay? The second con is that the assignment fees are probably going to be less. And the reason that the assignment fees are going to be less, we just talked about it, you've got two forces in opposition. You've got one force trying to get the highest price possible and one force trying to get the lowest price possible. You meet somewhere in the middle, and hopefully that middle still makes sense so that it's attractive enough for you as an investor or attractive enough for you as a wholesaler to be able to assign it to an investor, right? But because of that, and because of that opposing force, the assignment fees are going to be less. Now, how do you make up for that? Well, you just do more volume. How do you do more volume? I talked about it earlier. There's thousands of properties that are up for sale nationwide. You've got this massive market of opportunity if you're diligent and you're working it on a regular, consistent basis every single day. All right. Con number 3, there's more competition. There's going to be more competition. Why is there going to be more competition? Well, I've already talked about all the benefits. It's free. It's easily accessible. You can easily get a hold of the agents. It's much easier to get a hold of an agent than it is to get a hold of a seller. So you've got all these positive reasons for people to get involved, or people who want to get involved. And because there's more people getting involved, it creates more competition for you. And so because there's more competition for you, you also have to deal with the fact that you may be competing against your peers, right? Which it is what it is. That's the way the business goes. Now, if an agent is smart and an agent is able to educate a seller on how they should price the property at a price that would cause it to sell based on its condition, or you have an agent that is smart enough to educate a seller on why they should underprice their property to compete, so that way they can compete against all the other properties that are currently on the market. What's going to happen is, as an investor, as a wholesaler, you have to be prepared that for these deals, you will probably make offers that are above the current list price. All right. Now, for the vast majority of properties that are on the market right now, oh, and by the way, we're at a time where markets are currently accelerating. Excuse me, not accelerating. Inventories are increasing. And because inventories are increasing, what typically happens is, as inventories increase, prices tend to decrease. I just read an article on 28 markets where prices are on the decline. In those markets where prices are on the decline, you have to be even more aggressive about what you offer on those properties. Why? Because by the time you make the offer and then get either purchase it yourself as an investor or assign it to an investor themselves, if the market is declining, that property will be less in value, or the ARV, the after repaired value, will be less, 4 to 6 months later when they're trying to sell. So you have to be even more aggressive in those markets where there's a decline. Okay, so number 3 was more competition, and yes, deal with it. There's going to be more competition when it's easier, and it would be considered the low-hanging fruit, especially when you're going after properties that have been sitting on the market for 90 days or more. All right. Number 4, agents can complicate the deal. Now, we already talked about this a little earlier about how having an agent involved can be a blessing and a curse, but agents can complicate the deal, right? And the reason that they can complicate the deal is because they play the game messenger down the lane, all right? So they are filtering your message to the seller, right? You may feel a certain way. It's the agent's job to try to express that to the seller, and sometimes that doesn't always come out right. There's some agents that are better at it than others, right? And those are the ones that truly act like mediators. So sometimes having agents, it complicates the conversation between you and the seller, because you don't have direct access to the seller. So we'll talk about how when you do have direct access to the seller, DTS, those conversations are a little bit more, they flow a little bit more freely versus when you have to go through an agent, especially when there's delays, right? And so here's what happens. What happens is you tell the agent something in the morning, and then the agent, you assume that the agent is going to convey that message to the seller somewhere during the day, and then you find out that the agent didn't convey that message until the following day. And then, time kills all deals, right? And so some agents are better than others. Not all agents are like that, but I'm just saying, having someone filter your information or filter your conversation can create challenges, right? So it complicates it a little bit more. Number 5, the earnest money deposits are typically going to be higher when you are working with an agent, and as they should. Look, an agent's job is to protect the seller's interest. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And so in order to weed out all of the wannabes, right, all of the clowns, what they're going to do is they're going to try to get as high an earnest money deposit as possible. In some states, you can get in for as low as 1%. In other states, it's going to cost you 3% to get in. You've got states like California, Oregon, Washington, mainly the West Coast. Interesting. New York, I hear too, it's 3%. And Miami and Florida is 3% as well. So a lot of the major metros, they're going to want 3% earnest money deposits. You can get by in some states where you can do it with as little as 1% earnest money deposit. I think it's important to note that even though an agent is involved, and even though an agent is telling you that they want X percentage of earnest money deposit, it's all negotiable. It is all negotiable. And you as an investor, you as a wholesaler can negotiate a different amount. And listen, it's all about what you and the seller agree to. So if you and the seller agree to you coming in with $500 down and then increasing your deposit to $5,000 after you complete all your inspections and the seller goes for it, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine and it's perfectly legal. There is no law that dictates exactly what the earnest money deposit has to be, which also means, and we'll talk about this later, that with a direct to seller deal, you can ask the seller for an earnest money deposit of, $50. I've seen some people do it with $1. There has to be some type of a dollar amount as an earnest money deposit because there has to be something that you're putting down in exchange for the contract, all right? So bear that, keep that in mind. This is very important. Okay, so now that we've gone over the pros and the cons of going direct to agent, I want to talk to you about a system that we use called the Deal Bazooka. Now, what the Deal Bazooka does is it sends out anywhere from 20 letters of intent or offers per day to these agents, all the way up to 400, 500 offers per day. Can you imagine what it would be like if you sent out 500 offers in one day to 500 houses that are on the market to the agent? They get this offer, and let's say that, again, 1% of them actually come back and get accepted based on the terms that you offered. That's amazing. And more importantly, we will give you the template that you need so that it'll already be there. It'll be all filled out for you, and you'll know how to be able to send out these offers so that you can do this on a daily basis, okay? So it's called the Deal Bazooka. If you are interested in learning more about the Deal Bazooka, comment below or shoot me an email. You can email paul@dispodragons.com. paul@dispodragons.com, and just let me know you're interested in the Deal Bazooka system, and we'll teach you how you can send out hundreds of offers every single day to properties that are currently on the market so that you can wrap up your direct to agent deals. It's time to talk about direct to seller. Let's talk about the pros of working direct to seller. Now, number one, higher assignment fees. Because you are negotiating directly with the seller, chances are you're going to be able to get a much higher price. Now, not always. Look, not always. You're going to have some sellers that are really good negotiators. They know what they want. They know the price that they want. They know the terms that they want, and you're going to have to step up your game to be able to negotiate that with them. But statistically speaking, and based on what we have seen, based on what we have earned, based on what we have heard from other people, our peers in the business, direct to seller always yields, not always, typically yields a much higher assignment fee, or as an investor, you get a much better price when you're buying direct to seller and you're able to negotiate with them directly. All right. Number two, you have direct conversation with sellers. We talked about this earlier. When you're dealing with an agent, you're playing that message down the lane game. But when you're talking directly to a seller, you have direct access to them. You have their telephone number. You have the ability to hear them out, and they have the ability to hear you out. You can have a lot more empathy with them, and they can have a lot more empathy with you, and you can try to see if you can come up with some type of a win-win situation for both parties where everyone's happy when you have those direct conversations with the sellers. Number three, the earnest money deposits can be as little as you want, so long as the seller agrees, right? So there has to be some type of monetary exchange. You have to give them something in order for that contract to hold water. So, I mean, even if you do it at $1, that's okay as long as the seller accepts it. You have to make sure that they accept those terms, okay, in the contract, and they're aware of it and they understand what the deposit is going to be. I have to emphasize that as well. And then, you can start the process. You can start your inspections. You can start marketing it, whatever it is that you're going to do, depending on the state that you're in. Every state has different rules. Keep that in mind, especially when it comes to wholesaling. So, the earnest money deposit are a lot less than it is if you were working directly with an agent. And that's a huge pro. Let's go into the cons. Okay, the first cons is sellers are hard to find. These leads, finding these leads, motivated seller leads, are a lot harder than it is to hop onto Zillow and just look at a property that's currently on the market for sale. So when you're going after sellers, you're going to need to pull lists. You're going to need to get data. You're going to need to skip trace this data. You're going to need to, to filter this data. Then you're going to need to market to this data. So how are you going to go after them? You're going to cold call them. You're going to email them. You're going to SMS, text message market to them. You're going to pay for advertising so they can reach out to you. What marketing strategies are you going to use to get these sellers? Any way you look at it, it's a lot more work than it is to just hop onto Zillow, get a hold of the agent and say you want to submit an offer. It's a lot more work, right? So you have to acknowledge that. Yes, the benefit is the spreads, the assignment fees, the price that you can get a property at as an investor when you're dealing direct to seller is much, much better, but they're much harder to identify and to locate. Number two, we already talked about it. Because you're having to use all these avenues to locate, to identify, to get that seller to have a conversation with you, it's a lot more expensive. The cost per lead is a lot more expensive, okay? And so you're going to be spending money on all those services that we talked about, and you're going to spend anywhere between $300 per lead all the way up to $2,500 per lead, depending on how much money you're spending in marketing dollars every single month. And here's the thing. The best of the best in this business know exactly how much it costs them to acquire a lead. They know, just like on Shark Tank, when you have somebody going and they're pitching a business to the sharks will ask them, how much is your customer acquisition cost? How much does it cost you to get a customer? The best of the best in this business know how much it costs them to get a lead. They know how much it costs them to get a lead, which then converts to a deal. They know those numbers well, right? And so that's how I've heard people tell me, well, it costs me on average anywhere from $2,000 to close a deal. Well, that's fine when it costs you $2,000 per lead to be able to close a $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 deal. That's fine, but you have to know your numbers. So when you're working direct to seller, it's going to cost you a lot more money than when you're working direct to agent. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't invest in those marketing dollars. I just want you to be prepared. There are plenty of investors and wholesalers who make significant 6 figures and 7 figures and even 8-figure businesses, or earn 8 figures a year direct to seller and doing direct to seller marketing. Okay, so bear that in mind. Now that we've covered all of the pros and the cons of direct to agent and direct to seller, the next question is, which is a better system? Which is a better strategy? And the answer to that question is yes. Yes, both, right? The best system, the best strategy in the world is the one that you master, is the one that you get so good at that you can then start to focus on something else. Too many people get shiny object syndrome, and they don't stick to one system long enough to become a master at it. So if you're going to become a master at direct to agent, then make sure that you're being diligent about it and you're working direct to agent deals 2 to 3 hours every single day. 2 to 3 hours every single day. You're talking to agents every single day. You're putting out offers every single day. You're using systems like the Deal Bazooka to send out offers for you every single day. That's direct to agent, right? Now, if you're going to focus on direct to seller, great. Start focusing on your marketing. Start hiring cold callers. Cold call yourself. Send out emails yourself. Do driving for dollars. There's door knocking, right? There's all these different ways that you can market yourself direct to these sellers so that you can make offers on their properties, but you have to become a master of the mundane. And that's the thing. The people that earn the most money in this business aren't necessarily the ones who are doing things that are spectacularly different. They are the ones that are doing things consistently over and over and over. Boring, mundane tasks over and over and over and over again over a long period of time, and they've mastered those systems and they've mastered those strategies. And once they've mastered it to the point where it's producing repetitive, duplicatable results, then they add another system to it. And then they master that one. And then they get good at delegating those systems so that other people within their organization can help them. But that's advanced stuff. This training was strictly about which is better, direct to agent or direct to seller. And I think I answered that question. The answer to that question is yes. Now, here's the deal. For those of you who are looking at this for the first time, my recommendation to you is that you find a JV, joint venture partner, or a mentor who can walk you through how to get your business launched. Find a JV partner, find a mentor. Yes, it's going to cost you. If you have a JV partner, you're probably going to give up some of your assignment. If you have a mentor, you're probably going to have to pay for a mentorship or some type of a coaching or training program. But I tell you right now that by doing that, you're going to shorten the gap. You're going to have quicker success than trying to figure this thing out on your own, and potentially avoid any legal ramifications if you do something wrong. So my recommendation is, if you're looking at it for the first time, find a JV partner, find a mentor, find someone who can walk you through these entire processes so that you can achieve success a lot faster than if you were to do it all out on your own, okay? The second thing is, I shared this earlier, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and make sure that you hit the bell icon, but also make sure that you participate in these conversations. If you found value in this video, please comment below. If you have questions about anything that I covered in this video, comment below. If you think someone can benefit from this video, they're interested in wholesaling, they're interested in investing, they want to understand these concepts, but they're stuck or they need help or they're just getting started, share this video with them. I do this for free. And the only thing that I ask in return as compensation is that you share this video if you saw value in it, okay? And lastly, if you haven't heard yet, I published a book. It's called Deal Like a Dove, Dispo Like a Dragon. Deal Like a Dove, Dispo Like a Dragon. It's on Amazon right now. You can get it on Kindle and you can also get it in paperback. If you need help in this business, purchase that book. It's 400 pages of no fluff, no nonsense, how to build a real estate investing business by wholesaling and using wholesaling so that you can pick the best deals yourself, keep them for yourself, invest in yourself, and then wholesale the other ones, okay? Now, I appreciate you taking the time. I'd love to hear of your comments or even suggestions on other topics that you'd like for me to cover. If that's the case, comment below. Take care. Best of luck.